Hi everyone, hope that you're having a good day so far. So for today, whether you're watching this on Wednesday or Thursday, the first thing that we're going to do is add to your Quizlet from a couple of weeks ago, add the new word parts that we have learned. So if you go to the first item in your announcement, you're going to log back into your Quizlet, and instead of creating a new word list, you want to open your word parts Unit 1 word list, which should just be right here under Recent, because you just want to add to that list. So once you have it pulled up, then you're going to scroll down here to where it says add or remove terms. And you want to go ahead and add terms. And then you'll add the 5 additional word parts that we learned this week. So you just do add card, and then you'll add the words that you need to add. I have them listed here in the lesson. So it's hyper, in, im, ill, ig, and ear, bene, ped and pod, and able and ibble. So on these ones where there's more than one word, you can still put them all together on one slide or one flashcard. You don't need to have them separated, since we do sort of, they have the same definition. We treat them kind of the same. So when you turn it in, you should have 8 total flashcards, and you will share the link to your Quizlet here on this assignment. So that is your bell work for today. Should only take you 5 minutes or so to do that, and then you can move on to the creative writing assignment. So for your creative writing assignment, you can pick any of these options. There's different prompts, and you just have to pick one that you're going to choose. It doesn't matter which one you do. They are all graded the same and have the same requirements. Okay, so you need to write about one of the following 5 prompts. Regardless of which prompt you choose, you need to write at least 1 to 2 pages, double space your work, include properly punctuated dialogue, figurative language, and maintain the tone and characterization included in the original story. And we'll talk a little bit more about those as we get to it. So the first option is a newspaper reporter. So you are imagining that you are a reporter for a newspaper or a magazine, kind of like a tabloid, like what you would see at the grocery store checkout lane. And you hear about, what happened between Rainsford and Zaroff, and you want to turn this into a flashy news story with a headline. So you want to start by writing the story and its headline. There's a graphic organizer here that can help you organize your thoughts if you need it. Remember that you want your story to have an attention-getting lead or opening statement, and you should follow sort of newspaper style, which is the majority of the information is in the first paragraph, second paragraph, and then as you continue going, you have less and less information. There's an article that I have linked there that has some basic rules, rules about writing a newspaper report. And then there's also some examples of what news articles look like. So if you want to choose that one, you can. Now remember that you do have to use dialogue and figurative language. So if you're going to choose the newspaper one, you want to maybe have, maybe you pretend that you interviewed Rainsford and you have some of his quotes of what he said about his experience or something like that. So make sure that you are still keeping in mind that you have to have dialogue and figurative language in there somewhere. The next option is an alternate ending. So this is where you're going to write a different ending for the story. So you could kind of choose where you want this to start. So what, for example, you could say, okay, what if he didn't jump into the sea? What would have happened instead? Or what if he didn't show up in Zaroff's bedroom? What would have happened instead? Or you could start it even earlier if you wanted to, like, what if, I don't know, what if the general had fallen in the pit or something? So knowing the characters, how else could the story have ended? That's what you kind of want to think of. So your story needs to be written in third person. It needs to include dialogue, figurative language, and it needs to maintain the tone and characterization of the original story. So keep in mind that, you want to make it plausible. So, based on what's happened in the story so far, Rainsford and Zaroff are not just going to suddenly make up and be best friends. It's also the 1920s, so like Rainsford is not just going to whip out his iPhone and call Whitney to come and get him, right? Those things aren't possible given the time period. So make sure that you're consistent on that if that's the one that you choose. The next one is a journal entry, so it's reflecting on the past. So Rainsford would write, you're imagining that you're Rainsford writing a diary entry, reflecting on this event that happened. How does it affect him in the future? Of course, it's a journal entry, so it should be in first person. You should be writing as if you are Rainsford, and you can be creative in your diary design, but it does still need to meet the length requirement. In the past, I've had people do like several entries to meet the length requirement instead of just doing one big long one. Again, you do still need to have figurative language and you need to have dialogue. So think about how you could incorporate that into a journal or diary format. Another choice is stranded, which is you're imagining that you are Rainsford and you are writing a letter to help ask for help to get off the island. So your letter should include details from your experience that will be convincing enough for someone to come and rescue you, right? Like, why would they want to come to this island that is supposedly cursed? You need to convince them. Again, you want to make sure that you are still figuring out a way to include dialogue and to include figurative language and to meet the length requirement. Sequel, this one, you're just basically writing a sequel. So what happens next, right? Rainsford beats Zaroff, and then what happens? But again, remember, it has to be a realistic continuance of the story, so you can't just like have aliens all of a sudden come down out of the sky or something like that. You need to have it be something that's actually plausible. And again, there's a graphic organizer there for planning if you need it. And then finally, you're going to rewrite the story. You could rewrite the story from Zaroff's perspective. So you could, what I would recommend doing is picking a particular scene to rewrite, right? The whole story would be too long, but pick, one scene that you want to retell from Zaroff's perspective. So you could talk about your feelings about hunting, your boredom, how you trapped the humans on the island. Maybe you want to write about like how Zaroff got to the island and built his house. But that would be telling the story from Zaroff's perspective instead of, it's sort of told from like an omniscient perspective right now where we know about both characters. So those are your 5 options, and it really is up to you which one you want to pick. I think some of them are maybe a little bit easier to incorporate the requirements into, but they're all totally fine and pretty easy to meet these requirements. So if you scroll down, you'll see the rubric. So here's what you're graded on. Dialogue. So if you don't include any dialogue right away, you're getting a 0 out of 4. So make sure that you're including dialogue. Same with figurative language. Writing techniques, this is like your point of view and tone. So if you did a journal entry, is it told in first person? If you did a continuance of the story, is it still told in third person? And so on. Characterization, that's just making sure that you're consistent with the original story. Again, Rainsford and Zaroff are not going to just magically become friends. So don't include something like that in your story. And then grammar and usage and everything, all of those good things. So this is due on Monday. So this is the only day that we're giving in class to work on it though, okay? So if you get it done in class today, that's great. It's turned in and we're good to go. If you need a little bit more time, you can take more time, but it has to be outside of your normal class time because we have other stuff that we have to continue on and continue doing. So it's not actually due until Monday, so you do have the weekend if you need it, but not gonna give extra time in class to work on it, okay? So that is the creative writing assignment. One thing I did want to point out really quickly in the announcement for today, if I can get it to load, is that I have linked your article of the week at the bottom. So remember that is due by Friday. And I have a separate video for article of the week. It will be linked right here. And it has a video on it that goes over the instructions and gives you some sentence starters that you can work with. Okay, if you have any questions, you can feel free to call into the Zoom question and answer times or send me an email or a message on Canvas, and I will talk to you all next time.